What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Paul. This is the Leeds Therapy. I do hope you are doing well. Thank you as ever for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. If you've not done so already, please make sure that you are subscribed. Please make sure your notifications are turned on. Comment on the video for me as well. That's important. If you could like the video, if you're listening to the audio version of this, just make sure that you're liking it and you're following us on Apple and on Spotify as well. So you join us on another week that was. We're focusing on the dates, the 27th of July to the 2nd of August. And this is another week in the world of Leeds United. And I think it's fair to say this one's probably had a little bit of everything. We've potentially had one of the biggest signings Leeds have ever made in years, moving closer. We've had one transfer target choose somebody else. We've had another striker linked with Leeds, only for that story to be pretty quickly knocked down. There's been a new home kit, a win in America, and away from the pitch, perhaps one of the most interesting developments of the entire week is Parag Marathe and the fact that he is leaving the San Francisco 49ers after 25 years to concentrate on Leeds United, Rangers, and the wider football interests of the 49ers investment group. So there is plenty to get through. So this is the week that was. Leeds United, 27th of July, 2nd of August, 2026. Like I said, if you are new around here, go grab yourself a coffee, sit down, relax, chill out, and let's just jump straight onto it and we'll have a full chat about it. Let's start away from the transfer window because this could actually turn out to be one of the most significant Leeds stories of the summer. Parag Marathe is stepping away from the San Francisco 49ers after 25 years with the NFL organisation. According to ESPN, Marathe is leaving the 49ers to concentrate full-time on Leeds United, Rangers and other sporting interests connected to the ownership group. From a Leeds perspective, that is fascinating because this isn't Parag Marathe reducing his involvement in football, it's effectively the opposite. He's increasing it. For anyone still slightly confused about the structure at Leeds, the club is ultimately owned by 49ers Enterprises Global Football Group LLC, while Parag Marathe and Jed York hold more than 10% of the entity that possesses the voting rights in that ownership structure. Red Bull remain a minority investor and major commercial partner following the agreement Marathe helped negotiate in 2024. So the 49ers remain in control of Leeds United. But what we're increasingly seeing is the development of a much wider football operation. Leeds United, Rangers and potentially further sporting interests in the future. For Leeds supporters, though, the important bit is simple. Parag Marathe is going to have more time to concentrate on Leeds United. And considering where the club currently finds itself, that feels significant. We're entering our second consecutive Premier League season. There are huge plans around Ellen Road. The commercial side of the football club continues to grow, and the ambition in the transfer market appears to be increasing as well, which brings us nicely onto James Trafford, the big one. This has probably been the biggest transfer story of the week. And this one now appears to be heading towards a conclusion. David Ornstein reported that Leeds are on the verge of completing an agreement with Manchester City for Trafford, with the deal worth 40 million guaranteed plus potential add-ons. That's serious money. And it tells you exactly how highly Leeds rate him. The 23-year-old England goalkeeper has clearly been identified as a long-term number one. The goalkeeper situation needed addressing after the departures of both Ilian Meslier and Karl Darlow, with Darlow leaving Leeds after his contract expired and subsequently moving to Manchester United. So Leeds needed a goalkeeper, but rather than going for a stopgap solution, the club appears prepared to make a major investment in somebody they believe can own that position for years. Trafford wants regular first-team football. Leeds can offer him exactly that. And at 23 years old, you've potentially got a goalkeeper who could still be your number one 6, 7, or even 8 years from now. There has obviously been some frustration about how long the announcement is taking. As of the 2nd of August, the transfer had still not been officially announced by Leeds, despite widespread reports that the agreement was effectively in place. But unless something dramatic, drastic, terrible happens, this looks increasingly likely to be a case of completing the final formalities rather than negotiating the fundamental deal. And if Leeds get this done, Harry Wilson, Tarek Muramovic and James Trafford, suddenly that summer business is starting to look considerably stronger. Julian Brandt, it's over now, it's done. It's the one that hasn't gone our way, Mr. Julian Brandt. This was one of the most interesting Leeds links of the summer because you're talking about an extremely experienced German international becoming available following the expiry of his Borussia Dortmund contract. Leeds had genuine interest, but ultimately Brandt has chosen Ajax. Ajax confirmed the signing of the 30-year-old on a 3-year contract after his Dortmund deal expired, so we can officially remove that one from the board. And it's disappointing, particularly because Leeds clearly wanted another attacking player capable of operating between midfield and the forward line. But this is also where recruitment has to be disciplined. If the player chooses another club, move on. Don't spend 3 weeks chasing something that's no longer there. And interestingly, Leeds appear to have already started looking elsewhere because a familiar name has suddenly reappeared again. Igor Paixão. Paixão is back on the menu. Do you remember him? I'm pretty sure everybody does. We chased the Brazilian winger previously and ultimately couldn't get the deal done, but according to Graham Smith, Leeds had been evaluating other attacking options, particularly after Brandt failed to sign before the US tour. And Paixão is once again somebody on the club's radar. And this interests me because Paixão is a very different player to Brandt. Brandt gives you creativity and experience between the lines. Paixão gives you explosiveness, direct running, 1v1 ability, width, and potentially more threat running in behind. At 26, he's also entering what should theoretically be his prime years. The obvious question is price, because this isn't going to be a cheap deal. But the fact Leeds are revisiting the player suggests the recruitment department still sees something there. And personally, I think he's the type of profile Leeds need. Cover for Okafor, and he's somebody who can get the supporters out of the seats. He can also play in the number 10 role as well. He can play across the front line, to be fair. Someone who can receive the ball wide and actually attack a defender. So with Brandt gone, Igor Paixão may well be back on the menu. Definitely one to keep an eye on. Liam Delap, don't get too excited. We had another interesting name appear, which was Delap. The Chelsea striker was linked with Leeds during the week, and you could immediately understand why people became interested. Young, English, Premier League experience, and he's very, very physical. And somebody whose profile looks like it could potentially suit Leeds. There's just one problem. It doesn't appear Leeds are actually trying to sign him. Yorkshire Evening Post chief football writer Graham Smith reported that the club sources had indicated Delap is not a forward Leeds are in for. So at the moment, I'd put the Delap story to one side. That's not to say Leeds aren't looking for another striker. I think there's a very good chance they are. But the profile appears to be someone towards the younger end of the market. Carlos Espy had been mentioned again, although nothing appears particularly advanced there either, because as soon as he was mentioned, he moved straight over to Real Madrid. They paid the release clause and it was boom, gone. So, expect more names, particularly of strikers, to be linked before the window closes. But Liam Delap, at the moment, I would say no. And we come into players leaving, because the incoming side of things are only half of the story. There are still decisions to be made with the current squad, and Joel Pirot is probably the obvious one. Pirot has gone from Championship Golden Boot winner to finding Premier League minutes extremely difficult to come by. He played 246 Premier League minutes last season and has openly indicated that he would like to prove himself at the top level. Reports this summer have suggested there is interest in him and Leeds obviously have a decision to make. If another striker arrives, you have to ask where the minutes are going to come from. But equally, Leeds don't need to give players away. Pirot has proven Championship pedigree. He's still only 26. And there will be clubs who look at his scoring record and see somebody who could make a major difference. Then you add into the mix Nonto, who's come out this week with a really nice piece about being Leeds and being properly Leeds, etc., so on and so forth. But Zinni Boswell saying that the two players that are most likely to leave or potentially could leave would be Pirot and also Nonto as well. So it's another situation that's worth watching. The same applies generally across the squad. Once Trafford arrives and another couple of attacking players potentially come through the door, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing more movement going in the other direction. Leeds aren't just building the squad, they're trying to improve it. And sometimes that means making difficult decisions on players who have previously contributed. New home kit. Away from transfers, Leeds also officially unveiled the new 2026-27 home shirt. And Adidas have gone very traditional with this one. White, yellow, blue. Exactly what you'd expect from Leeds United, but there's also a nice connection to the city itself. The design celebrates the 400th anniversary of the Leeds Town Charter, trying to keep the shirt plugged into the history of Leeds rather than simply producing another generic football kit. Personally, I didn't like it at first. Then I saw it on the squad against Sunderland, and I like it. I do think it's clean. I think it looks like a white shirt, Leeds colours, Leeds badge, job done. It was the horizontal lines that everybody was worried about. And for me, I actually think it looks all right. When you see the kit in full, genuinely, I actually think. Finally, some actual football. Leeds continued their American preseason tour with a 1-0 victory over Sunderland in New Jersey. Metcha scored the only goal of the game after just 8 minutes, but preseason results aren't really the important thing. It's about performances, fitness, understanding, and gradually getting players ready for Nottingham Forest when the Premier League season begins. What was encouraging was seeing players like Parag Marathe, Harry Wilson and Sean Longstaff involved alongside established members of the squad. Marathe was absolutely incredible in that game, by the way, and I won't be told anything else. He is every inch of the £34 million defender that we have purchased. First half featured Alex Cairns, Jayden Bogle, Gabby Goodmanson, Tarek, Joe Roden, Longstaff, Metcha, Wilson, Tanaka, Bornout, and young defender. We're starting to see the structure, we're starting to see combinations developing, and most importantly, another chunks of minutes into the legs. Next up, the schedule continues towards the final preparation games before Leeds begin their Premier League campaign away at Nottingham Forest on the 17th of August. So let's bring everything together, because I think this has actually been quite an important week. At ownership level, Marathe stepping away from the San Francisco 49ers to concentrate on Leeds United, Rangers and the wider sporting operation tells us something about where this project is going. Leeds are becoming an increasingly important part of the 49ers sporting portfolio. On recruitment, James Trafford appears extremely close. Julian Brandt is officially off the table. Igor Paixão has come back into the conversation. Liam Delap appears to be one we can forget, and Leeds still look like they want more attacking quality before the window closes. We've also got decisions to make around players potentially leaving, and I don't think we're finished, not even close, because if Trafford arrives, I still think you can make a strong argument that Leeds need at least 2 or 3 more significant signings. Another attacking player who can create, another forward who can score goals, and maybe even more depending on who leaves. The positive thing is this. We're not talking about Leeds simply trying to survive anymore. We're talking about a club preparing for its second consecutive Premier League season. We're seeing serious money being discussed for players like James Trafford. We're seeing the ownership group expand its football operation. And now we're seeing Parag Marathe making Leeds and those football interests his full-time focus. Does it guarantee success? Absolutely not. But does it tell you the scale of the project has changed? Yes, it does. And the next 4 weeks are going to tell us an awful lot about just how ambitious that project really is. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the week that was. I'm going to leave it there. Over to you now. Get in the comments. Let me know what you think. Make sure you're liking, hyping. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're doing all of those fine bits and pieces of information for me. If you're listening to the audio version, just make sure that you are liking on either Apple or on Spotify as well. Thank you very much for your time. I genuinely, really, really do appreciate it. Take care of each other. Most importantly, please take care of yourself. I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy. Cheers.